Hey Facebook, it's Amie Streater with Iconic Colorado Properties.
And Shari Porter with Elevations Lending.
So I've spent the last 3 days, Shari's been watching me, going through market data because what I gave you guys on Monday was just the tip of the iceberg, and it doesn't apply to every zip code and every neighborhood. And here's the really fascinating thing. Sometimes the neighborhoods don't correspond to the zip codes that they're in. So I have a lot of data here, and I'm going to get this in a format that I can publish, and I will be publishing it as a comment to this video probably tomorrow so that everybody can read it, because I know it's really hard to understand numbers when someone is telling you. But I've gone, if you can see this, let's see here, I've gone zip code by zip code. And while overall we saw a market decline from the first half to the second half from the beginning to the end of 2025, we saw about a 14% decline. And a lot of economists are expecting a decline in median home prices, and a lot of economists are expecting another 10% decline before we hit the bottom, which nationwide will amount to a 25% correction in home prices. That's really good news for buyers.
Right.
Not so exciting for sellers. However, remember that if you had 40% appreciation, which you very well may have had, 50% appreciation, of precious few people have seen their homes double in value. Losing 25% is not the end of the world. So let's put that in perspective. So the sky is not falling, but I don't hear anyone talking about the fact, I've got a hair sticking up. I don't hear anybody, sorry, we have to focus on what's important. I don't hear anybody talking about the fact that the real estate market has crashed. And to me, 25% decline, and we're halfway through it. Yeah, that's not great. All right, so let's get to the nitty gritty. So, and I'm not going to read this by zip code because that'd be painful for everybody. But for example, 80132, which is Monument, is down. This is median home sales price for existing homes, meaning not new construction, and so resale homes and single family homes only. This doesn't include townhomes. This doesn't include condos, and this has nothing to do with the rental market. But Monument is down 2% from the median of the first half of 2025 to the median of the second half of 2025, which means the perfectly average Monument house is worth $15,550 less now than it was at the beginning of 2025. So that's a $15,550 cut. Now, that's not going to apply unilaterally to every single house on the market. If your house is better than the median, then maybe it's not going to impact you as much. If your house is not as nice as the median, then maybe you'll see more of an impact. These are just based on the median averages and the zip codes. I only see 1, 2, 3, 4 that have gone up. 80133, which is Palmer Lake. 80906, which is southwest Broadmoor area. And Broadmoor didn't go up, but 80906 is flat. The median for the first half and the second half was $700,000 for 80906. The number of homes that came off the market unsold more than doubled in the Broadmoor area, though. The other ones that didn't go down, 80908. 80908 is up 2.7%. A median home price went up $20,000 from the first quarter to the second quarter in 80908. And then the only other zip code that I found that didn't go down was 80924. That's going to be Wolf Ranch, Cordera, kind of that Powers Corridor area. That had a 1% gain, or a median price gain of $7,500 from the first half to the second half of the year, What's really surprising is almost every zip code had a lower number of home sales, almost every single one. Every single zip code had a significant increase in unsold homes. Those are homes that came off the market, withdrawn, expired, or canceled. Sellers gave up, took it off the market. Like in 80132, we went from 49 in the first half of the year to 58 in the second half of the year. 80906 went from 42 unsold homes in the first half to 89 in the second half.
Wow, that's a huge increase.
80911 went from 59 unsold homes in the first half to 115 in the second half.
Wow.
Substantial. So what this tells us is, we already knew like 67% of homes are coming off the market unsold. So it's not surprising that in a lot of zip codes you see double the amount that just shows us that things got worse and it got harder to sell in the second half of 2025 than it was even in the first half. Now, what's interesting about the neighborhoods, this is the chart that I did for the neighborhoods. So I told you guys that Monument was down 2%. Jackson Creek is down 10% from the first half to the second half of 2025.
There was a lot of new builds at that time, at the beginning, correct? As opposed to now, or sorry, not real estate.
Yeah,
person you're asking
no.
questions.
Jackson Creek is. I mean, there are some newer developments up in there, but these don't factor in new home sales. These
Okay.
only factor in resale, existing home sales.
Okay.
So new construction's not factoring in here, but you're right. There is a lot of new construction up there,
Okay.
which maybe the competition with the new construction is what's driving these prices down. I'm not pretending to tell you guys why these numbers are what they are. I'm just telling you what they are. All of this information, by the way, has come from the Pikes Peak MLS, and the data here was compiled by me, but the original source numbers came from the Pikes Peak MLS, and they show so that's a $70,000 reduction on the median home price in Jackson Creek. And when I say Jackson Creek, I mean all of the Jackson Creek neighborhoods. Okay. So for Broadmoor, I mean all of the Broadmoor neighborhoods. There's the Broadmoor, but then there's also a lot of other neighborhoods. There's Flying Horse, but then there's Torino, and there's all of the other neighborhoods as well. So when I say a neighborhood, I'm including all of the sub areas. Now, the most surprising thing to me was Sanctuary Point is definitely an outlier. Sanctuary Point is one of only two MLS sub areas that I found that increased. Only two. And they're very different. So the first one that increased is Sanctuary Point. Sanctuary Point came up by 7.9%.
Wow.
$78,000 increase in the median home price from the first half to the second half of the year. By far the biggest increase.
Yeah.
The only other increase is not only the opposite side of the county, but an opposite price point, because the median in the second half of 2025 for Sanctuary Point was $1,065,500. Okay, so we're at the top of the market.
Right.
At a more affordable price point, Security, which is an 80911, second half of the year had a median of $327,500. So great affordable price point there, right?
Yeah.
And their median home price increased by $12,500.
Wow.
So that's a 4% increase for Security. So I think, and this is an assumption, but I think that a lot of folks with mortgage rates are still historically fantastic, but I think people that are really looking to make their money go further might be looking in those more affordable sub areas. What do you think?
Yes, I would agree with that, because I think the average consumer right now thinks that their mortgage rates are not great, and they're and that, I'm going to just say, limiting belief of that kind of puts them more in that category. Even sometimes if they're not, they think that's where they need to be.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think that opens up that category immensely, because now people are looking for that.
Yeah.
And especially if you're moving from out of state to here and you're not used to the prices here, you're looking in that range too.
And most people know that by the time the government, by the time they tell us that we're in a recession, we've been in a recession for months.
Right.
And they are not telling us these details about the housing market, especially they're not going to tell us anything this local. And we are very different. Not only is Colorado Springs and Monument its own market, Front Range, Pikes Peak, MLS, its own market. Every single neighborhood in our area is so different and they perform so differently. You cannot paint this area with a brush when you've got, because here's another shocker. I was shocked by this because you can't say, well, the area is down by 14% when Sanctuary Point is up almost 8%. So this was really surprising. We got to like take a deep breath, sit down. The sky is not falling, but Flying Horse and the Broadmoor are no longer $1 million neighborhoods.
Median wise.
Yes. I mean, there will be homes that sell for over $1 million, but the median price point in the Broadmoor neighborhoods and the Flying Horse neighborhoods is no longer over $1 million. They both had pretty substantial drops. The Broadmoor neighborhoods, and remember, 80906 did pretty well. It was flat, and flat is good. If you're not losing, we'll take it. But the Broadmoor neighborhoods specifically are down 18%.
Wow.
$211,500 difference between the first half median home price, sold home price, and the second half sold median home price. $211,500. $211,500. It's hard to say. Why is that hard to say? Anyway, because, I'm a writer, I'm not a speaker. Forest Meadows is down 2.4%. I did go through and try to pick like a larger neighborhood in each of the zip codes that I analyzed. So Jackson Creek was down 10%, Sanctuary Point up 7.9%, Meridian Ranch down 5.3%. I'm actually surprised Meridian Ranch wasn't down more than that because they have so much inventory in Meridian Ranch right now.
Yes.
There's so many homes that are sitting on the market and coming off the market. In the second half of 2025, 98 homes came off the market and sold in Meridian Ranch.
That's a lot.
I'm trying to see if anybody's higher. No.
I think this is like these statistics though, because we do broad stroke things, right? Like a lot of times when you hear statistics on the news, it's a national average. It's not your specific area. And this is why it's super important to work with professionals who know the area.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And we're not tooting our horns here. There's lots of great agents and lenders in town. We just happen to be the best. In all humility. But yeah, I mean, we're just trying to provide information and data because if an agent comes to you and says, well, prices are down 14%, and you're in a neighborhood that's flat or even up a little bit, then you don't need to drop your price by 14% in order to get it sold, but you do need to understand what's happening around you because there are neighborhoods that compete with each other too. Yeah. If you're looking in Wolf Ranch, you're probably also looking in Banning Lewis Ranch, and you're probably also looking at Meridian Ranch.
Right.
Another realization that I had today is how many neighborhoods in Colorado Springs have ranch in the name?
Yeah, we do have a lot. A whole lot, actually.
It's like we're a bunch of cowboys out here. Yeah. And anyway.
Well, they were ranches at one point.
I guess. Yeah, I guess you're right at one point. Yeah. Woodman Hills is down 4.3%. Broadmoor, like I mentioned, down 18%. Forest Meadows is doing pretty good. It's only down 2.4%. Gold Hill Mesa, down 8.5%, $60,000 drop.
Wow.
In median sold price. Security, like I mentioned, is up 4%. Villa Loma, you guys are down 4.2%, or $19,500. Southborough is down 4%. Vista Grande, you guys are doing really good. You're only down 0.5%. Mountain Shadows is down 1%, or $7,500. So that's almost flat.
Yeah,
that's not really. Mm-hmm. I know I gave you a different number earlier for Mountain Shadows that was much more scary.
Yes,
but you did. I had to go back. Yeah. I had to go back because there were a couple of boxes I didn't check in there. So it's really not that bad. Briargate, all the Briargate neighborhoods are down 3%, or $15,000. Flying Horse is down 8%, $82,000 on the median. That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. I don't care who you are, that's a lot of money. Springs Ranch, you're down 1% or $5,000. Stetson Hills, you're down 1.7% or $8,000. Cordera is down 6%, or $47,500. Wolf Ranch is doing better. It's only down 1.4% or $10,000. And I only have 2 more neighborhoods here. Lorson Ranch, that's a big area. All of the Lorson Ranch neighborhoods are down 8% or $37,000, with a median price point of $420 in the second half of 2025. $37,000 is a hit. Yes. And there's a lot of homes for sale. Meridian Ranch had the most homes come off the market, followed very closely by Banning Lewis Ranch, which is down 3.7% or $20,000. So that's pretty crazy. Yeah. So Banning Lewis is tracking very closely to the whole 80927 zip code because most of 80927 is Banning Lewis Ranch. Mm-hmm. So if you guys have any questions on that, I was really, really surprised by these numbers. And like I said, we're getting this into a document that we can share with the community. Here's our neighborhoods. It's a lot. It's a lot to look at, and it's really hard when somebody's reading you numbers. But I mean, I think this is some pretty surprising information. And the sky is not falling. This is just the market, and this is what the market does. It's what markets do. They go up and they go down. Yep. But it's good information to have because pricing, and I know you're not a realtor, but your job depends very much on our ability to do our job well.
Correct. Yep.
And I think you would agree that pricing is the hardest thing that realtors do.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think convincing the seller that it's the right price point is probably the hardest part of that whole transaction, right? Because I've watched you guys pull numbers and analyze the neighborhood and stuff. I think you do an excellent job at that.
Thank you.
And but it is hard for a seller when they've last year you see the house next to you sold for this, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter 2 months ago. Really?
Right.
Correct?
No, it really doesn't. It depends on what the trajectory is for that neighborhood.
Right.
And some of these neighborhoods that have had some really big and aggressive drops, you're going to see a much quicker downward trajectory. They're going to hit the bottom of the market first. Mm-hmm. And the bottom of the market isn't something that we need to be afraid of. I mean, we will still have. We've had such great appreciation in Colorado, really almost too much. It's not sustainable, but we're not going to lose it all. It's not like, I mean, there are people who are going to be upside down, but I know you're probably seeing people who are selling and then they're coming to you to buy the next home, and then they're not having as large of a down payment as they thought they were going to have. And how do you counsel folks through that?
Well, usually by the time that they get to me, they already know that the what they're gaining on their previous home is less than what they maybe anticipated. So I can always adjust numbers, depending on the loan type. You can just put less down if we needed to or whatnot, but we just that's a whole individual question.
It's based
really
on the
is kind of hard to
But do you find that a lot of times people don't need as much down as they think that they do?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times you can get your seller to help pay your rate down.
Yes, which is super helpful.
And help with closing costs and things like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's always a way. It's just moving numbers and getting it to work for that particular person. Mm-hmm. And sometimes too, like not taking the whole chunk and putting it down does help, because I always like personally to have people to have cushion, because inevitably you move into a new house, the water heater's going to go out, or something, right?
Yeah, Murphy's Law.
Yeah, so I don't like to see people put all of their eggs in the basket anyways, because you just need to be cautious and safe. So but there is definitely a different market, and I think the key is being able to pivot, right? So sometimes pivoting looks like, oh, I'm going to have to stay in this house for another year. Sometimes pivoting looks like, okay, I'm just getting a little bit less, but I have to move. My job, is requiring this or whatnot. You just make the best of every situation, It is what it is sometimes.
And I would say what the market and what economists are telling us is it's not going to be you're waiting a year. It's going to be you're waiting 3.
Yes.
Because we're not at the bottom of the market. And I'm gonna draw an ugly picture because that's what I do. I draw ugly pictures. I'm a writer. Here, there's a black one right there. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And my readers. Okay.
Oh.
So I did this chart for her. Thank you. I did this chart. Look.
I'm older than her. All right, come on.
Okay. So I'm gonna draw y'all a picture. Because it helps me. So if the top of the market was at 22 and the bottom of the market we're thinking is probably going to be spring of 2027, okay? And 2022 was great, right? COVID, multiple offers as a listing agent. Oh, it was great. But and again, this is going to look scarier than it actually is. It's just information. Don't freak out. Stay calm. Everybody stay calm. Okay, so
says the woman.
Says the woman drawing the graph. Okay, so if it takes us from 2022 to 2027, that's 5 years, okay, to go from the top to the bottom, right there, okay? 2022 to spring of 2027 for the bottom. That's going to take us 5 years. That's actually, most real estate cycles are about 7 years. So we're not going to come out of that in 2. It's going to take, if it takes us 14 months from now to hit the bottom, it's going to take us 16 to 18 months from now, from the bottom until we're back where we are today. So let's say today your home is worth $600,000.
Yeah.
Well,
I was going to say you should put it a little lower.
Put it a little lower. Okay. Yeah, you told me that on Monday too, and I didn't do it.
Yeah. Because it's.
I'm getting better at following.
Of the way through.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. You're right. See, I'm listening.
Yeah.
Okay.
The numbers girl.
Numbers girl. Okay, so if your home is worth $600,000 right now, and then let's say it was worth, let's see, what is? I'm gonna have to do reverse math here. 600,000. That would be if your home was worth 15% more.
It's going to be a little bit off, but,
like
630.
That's what I was thinking. So that would be 30,000 minus 630. I can't do math. She's the numbers person. I'm the pretty house person. She's the numbers person, and I call myself a real estate economist. Okay, 600,000. So whatever math says, maybe Shari can tell us. Whatever math says your house was worth in 2022, but let's just say for giggles, it's now worth $600,000. So if it goes down another 15% by spring of 2027, what's that? 15%.
Oh,
sorry, you're doing other math.
So 600.
Bear with us.
That would be times
600,000. It's worth 600,000 now.
5. That did not. 6.
Okay, so if it loses another 15%, that's another $90,000. Ouch. So that makes you at the bottom worth 510.
Oh yeah, my numbers were right. It looks so bad. I didn't think it was.
Okay. So it stands to reason that if you wait a year or a year and a half, your house is going to be worth about 510. This is where the market is headed. Remember, we're not in an appreciating market. We're in a depreciating market. So when you wait, it's going to cost you more money. Your house is worth more today in a depreciating market than it's going to be worth a year to a year and a half from now. Crystal ball aside, because this is what the smart people, the math people are telling us. But it's also basic common sense. And when the market is going down and we're being told to expect another 15% decline, then your house is going to be worth 15% less in 14 to 16 months when we hit the bottom of the market. So if you sell now, your house is worth $90,000 more than it likely will be worth about a year to a year and a half from now. So if you look at our little chart here, if it takes us this amount of time to get from here to here, it's going to take us probably the same, maybe even more time to come back up to where your house is worth $600,000 again. If it takes 14 months to hit the bottom, it's going to take another 18 to 24 months. I mean, who knows? Wild cards notwithstanding, because crazy things can happen as they do. But if this follows the normal economic flows and there's not some kind of like crazy intervention like we had in 2020, where the government was playing around, pulling the levers and artificially lowering the interest rate, which is why we had the 2 and 3% interest rates. We're not expecting that to happen again, which is why interest rates are going to stay steady this year. But everything else holding steady, you're probably looking at about 2.5, 3.5 years before your house is worth what it's worth today, because we've got to go through the bottom of the dip.
Yep.
So I hope that makes sense to everybody. Our math flubbing aside, it's hard to do this on the spot.
It is.
I know, math is hard.
Well, and then you have two different graphs, because you have the years, but then you have the percentage, right? So when we are looking at this is 4/5 of our
We're
year, but
4/5 of the way to the bottom.
But it's 20, or we're at 14%, but we still have another 10% to go. So it's kind of off a little bit. There'd be another curve on there as well where they intersect. So the slope would be different.
These numbers, no, you're fine.
Yeah.
These numbers and the degree of slope are going to vary.
Yes.
Are going to vary.
Yeah.
Because, like, again, if you're in sanctuary point or security, this isn't happening for you.
Right.
You're going up. You're
just
defying logic.
Ignore the chart in that case. Yeah.
And so so the whole point, the reason why I spent 3 days doing this, not because I don't have anything better to do, because I do, but I really want to understand at a granular level what is happening in the neighborhoods where I'm selling homes. Mm-hmm. And when people are moving in and I'm helping them purchase a home, I want to help them understand how they should evaluate the list price. Mm-hmm. And this goes back to, so one of the best videos on this topic, the guy says that if you don't want to wait till the bottom of the market to buy a house, just take the list price and offer 10% less. That is terrible advice, and let me tell you why. That is so dumb, because first of all, the chances of that home being appropriately priced are not good. Let me tell you something. Real estate school teaches realtors nothing about pricing. Absolutely nothing. Just because someone has a real estate license does not know. That doesn't mean that they know how to price a house. Pricing is the most important thing we do, and it is the hardest thing we do. And I will tell you, any agent who's coming in and saying, this is what your house is worth, they're full of crap. And I'm going to tell you why. There's always a range. There's a market range. Mm-hmm. I'm off camera. There's a market range that the market will bear out for any property in any particular sub area at any given point in time. Depending on how fast you want the home to sell, mm-hmm. the quality of your finishes, the condition, your lot location, those types of things will determine. A neighborhood typically has a price point. Now, Black Forest that's one of the hardest areas to price, because you can have, a mansion and Sanford and Son, within
next door.
Next door, you know. So there's some areas that are harder to price than others. But if you go to Wolf Ranch or Cordera, and you have the same builder and the same floor plan and the same, it's going to be easier to price it than if you've got, and you can't say that a 20-year-old classic and Flying Horse is worth the same as a brand new custom home in the gated section of Flying Horse. They're not the same thing, and they're not the same buyer, and so they don't track the same way. And so anyone who, and the biggest red flag, buyers and sellers, okay, I'm going to tell you something. There's a little secret here. If an agent comes to you with a printout that says comparative market analysis, Pikes Peak Association of Realtors, no, absolutely not. That is not a CMA. That is a computer algorithm that is not factoring in any of the details. And I'll tell you a true story. I had a seller who had met with an agent, they gave them that PPAR CMA, not blaming PPAR, not blaming the CMA, not blaming the agent, but they just used that computer algorithm to price the house. I guess she didn't know how to price the house. I sold that house in 3 days for $250,000 more than that CMA said it was worth. The CMA didn't account for, I'm serious,
Okay,
in 3 days.
I believe it.
The CMA didn't account for the lot location, the lot size, the builder, because they're different builders in different neighborhoods. And the reason they're different builders in different neighborhoods is because some people can afford a $500,000 house and some people want a $900,000 house.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Builders do different things. And they do different quality. And a $500,000 house is not worth as much as a $900,000 house. And you don't have to have an MBA to understand that. But those algorithms, those computer models put everything together and average out for the neighborhood. And that would be like me telling you that because you're in this neighborhood and this neighborhood is down by 8%, your house is down by 8%. Absolutely not. If your house is better than the median, if it's larger, if it has better finishes, a better lot location, if it's newer, or if you've remodeled it, there's a million things that can change the value of your house. The reason it's important to understand these things is because you have to know generally where the area is going, but then you have to factor in the individual aspects of that home in order to be able to price it correctly.
Yeah.
So the reason I disagreed with the guy who said 10% is because what if the house is underpriced? There are a lot of buyers. There are houses right now on the market that are underpriced by $50,000, $75,000, $100,000. You can go buy a house and make $100,000 on closing day. They are out there. Let me tell you, they are out there. So if you see a house that's underpriced and you go offer 10% less, you might miss an incredible opportunity.
Yeah.
If the house is overpriced and you only offer 10% less, you could overpay. So there's no blanket.
Right. I'm going to say something from a lender perspective too, because I've seen some of my clients do this. You're good.
I'm getting
excited.
I'm getting excited.
I love this stuff though.
I do too.
Right?
We geek out on that. We actually talk about this when we're not doing videos. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, we do. I think one thing too, like from a buyer's perspective, I've seen some of my clients go, oh, well, I think this house is overpriced, so I'm going to lowball and ask for seller concessions. And I think, again, no, you're not. First of all, it's an insult. This person is trying to make something on this house. Second of all, it's like, and you want to analyze, right? Is it better to save $10,000 on the home price or $10,000 and I get your interest rate down, which is going to save you $20,000 or $30,000, right? Depending on how long you're going to live in the home.
Is that the right answer?
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
But it depends,
It depends on whether the house is appropriately priced. And if a buyer does want to come in low, then the agent should, so that you don't offend, because you don't want to offend.
Correct. Then you get the door slammed in your face and now you don't have a house.
Right. And if you're really in love with the house, but you don't want to overpay for it, the best thing to do is to give them a pricing analysis. Yeah. And use this kind of data. And any agent has access to this data. But using really good data and taking that to the listing agent and asking them to send, you are helping the listing agent. If the listing agent has an overpriced listing, either they don't know how to price it or they do and their seller is unreasonable. I mean, we've all been in that situation. Yeah. But if the agent knows that they're high and the seller's unreasonable, you're really helping that listing agent by giving them a really good pricing analysis and saying, hey, here's where the neighborhood is tracking. This house is actually, 20% smaller than the median, because, these statistics that I'm pulling, they also tell us the median age, the median size, bedrooms, bathrooms, garage spaces. Like there's a lot of data. So if this house is not quite up to what the median is for the neighborhood, and you're pulling comps, and then you can say this house sold for less and it was bigger. This house sold for less and it had a completely renovated basement, and you can hit those points, then you can help the listing agent help the seller see the light.
Yeah.
But none of this is blanket information. None of this is the sky is falling, everything is bad. It's not. It's just different.
Well, and I think like each home is individual. Like each buyer, each seller is individual, right? They're, like you said, is the basement remodeled? What kind of appliances do they have? Do you have a Sub-Zero fridge or a Frigidaire? Like big difference, right?
Big difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
When you were doing the analogy, I was like, it'd be like if you drove a Lexus and I drove a Lexus, but my Lexus was like the stripped down model and I'm rolling my window down like this, and yours is like all making you coffee when you get in. Yours is going to be worth a little bit more than mine, right? Even if outside they look exactly the same.
Even if they're both a Lexus.
So you just need to ask questions.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ask questions. What are your goals? What do you need? What's in there? What's, you know what I'm saying? Like having that data. And I think that's one thing that you and your agent are really good at, is asking questions and collecting data and getting facts and different things like that, because everything's different. Because I could even do a loan for somebody, right? And your interest rate is on the same home with the same price with the same income could be completely different than Susie Q's down the street, because she's got a 620 credit score and you've got a 780 credit score. Everything else could be exactly the same, but the interest rate's going to be different. So every situation there's nuances to it, and you have to ask the questions to get the data accurately.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is why if you go on the website that starts with a Z and you
Rhymes with Willow.
And you ask what's my home worth, the value that it's going to give you.
Yeah.
I mean, you might as well get a magic 8-ball.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to have, I think I heard the CEO of that company, his own home value was off by 30% from the website to what it actually sold for.
Yeah.
And 30% is a lot. And there's a disclaimer on there that says this could be off by 30%.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, there's even a disclaimer on there. So, hand pricing. It's meticulous. It takes a lot of work. All of this took me 3 days for, a 30-minute video. But it's important. It's important to understand what's happening at the micro level, not just freak out about the macro,
right?
But to understand what's happening at the micro level.
Yeah. And
at the micro level, locally, it's really not that bad. I mean, the biggest drop is 18% in the Broadmoor, and that's a big drop. But most of our neighborhoods are having very slight drops.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they are still drops. And so if you look at your neighbor's house that sold a year ago and you try to price up from that's not going to work.
Right.
You have to factor in what's happening in the area, what's happening with buyers. You have to be like super creative with how you structure an offer and how you think about receiving an offer, because if you don't want to drop your price by $20,000, but maybe you're willing to give up 10, if your agent can show that buyer's agent that our $10,000 credit to buy your rate down is going to be worth more to you than a $20,000 price drop, you just saved yourself $10,000 and you benefited the buyer. And I know that was a lot of numbers in a very short amount of time, but this is where it's important to really understand and not just grab a number and say, this is what my house is worth and this is what I'm going to sell it for and I'm not going to take anything less. You probably are.
Yeah.
Stubborn sellers are not going to win right now. You've got to look at it as what is the best available opportunity for this investment right now. It is your home, but it's also an investment.
Yeah. Well, and when you are that stubborn to not pivot or change or give up a little bit, there's a lot more houses on the market right now. The buyer can just go to the next house. correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I cringe when I hear sellers start to say something like, well, if the buyer really wants it. No, there's 30 other houses just like yours on the market within a 5-mile radius. They don't want your house that bad.
Yeah.
There are very few houses. There are some, but there are not that many houses out there that are that special that someone's going to say, I have to have that house and I'll pay whatever the seller wants. That
Right.
is just,
Then you're looking at custom homes too, right? That's where you get unique.
yeah.
Yeah. And the majority of homes in any area are not custom built,
Yeah.
you know? So,
And even an appraisal is just one person's opinion of whether the contract price is justified on that day. It is not the appraiser saying, thus saith the appraiser, your home is worth $700,000.
well, the truth is the appraisal is more for the mortgage company than anything else.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And if you get a mortgage appraisal for a refi, it can be high by up to 30%. So if you refi your mortgage and you get an appraisal, don't expect that to be a reflection of value. The assessor's website is not a reflection of your actual market value. It'll say market value, but it's off, and they know that it's off. It's based on, again, what's happening on an average level in the area with homes like yours, and there are too many other factors for the assessor's market value. They're basing your taxes on that number, but that's not your list price for your home. And that can be really high or it can be really low. I see it go both ways.
Hopefully lower on the assessor site.
Typically it's a little bit lower, and Zillow is just all over the place. I mean,
Crazily all over the place.
It's a good tool for certain aspects of your home search, but don't use it to price your house. And don't take your Zestimate and add on all of your credit card debt and your car loan and everything that you spent on your house and then say, this is what I'm selling for. No.
This is why we enlist professionals who do their research.
Yeah. There's no unicorn math in real estate right now. 2021, unicorn math.
Yeah.
What do you want to sell it for? Okay, fine, we'll slap it on there. And it would sell. There'd be a line out the door of people crying because they didn't get to overpay for it.
Right. Yeah. But then look at where all those people are sitting now. Because they way overpaid for their house, and we went like this. And so now I see a lot of people upside down.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah. So,
but they got a 2% interest rate.
But they got a 2% interest rate. They may have overpaid by $60,000. How long does it take for that to map out? Do you have any idea?
Well, I can give you like one practical example. So, had a client that, okay, when I say a client, I actually did not work with them. I was just trying to help them. They bought a house. I think they bought it for $420 right at the peak, right? So they overbid. They did not get the 2-3% interest rate. I think they were like in the mid fives.
Ooh, that was high for back then.
Well, because remember, like in January 2022, interest rates were still pretty, I think. And
it was like
March, they were like 8.5%. And I was like, how? It's like 6%. There was a lot of people who no longer qualified to shop. So they were kind of like in that in-between part, right? So they didn't hit the lows, but they didn't get the highs, right?
Yeah.
And so that was like the beginning of 2022 when they bought. They were trying to sell their house, and it was like, it's now worth like $380. So that math does not math. They're like their mortgages their current mortgage is more than what their house is worth, and that's hard, you know. So when you think about it, right? People were taking like $400,000 houses, coming in and bidding $440, $460. Like I saw people bringing 50 and 60 grand more than the asking price of the house in 2020 and 2021. And if we just map that, like the average home here is like 4% increase. So you've already like pre-bought 10 years, and then our market
Of
went
equity.
down,
Yeah.
right?
You paid for all your equity up
Yeah.
front. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have questions, we're here to help. We can't solve every problem, but if you are in a situation where you feel like you're upside down, understand that all of this is vapor until you go to sell.
Correct.
If you don't sell, and I'm not telling you not to sell, if you
It's like
need
the
to
stock
sell,
market.
it's like the stock market. But if you're not going anywhere, don't worry about any of this. Get the best, Now, if you have a high interest rate and you want to look at doing a refi and get that to something, rates are much better than they were.
Yes.
You quote, I'm not quoting.
I think that today it was like 6.25 is the average for a 30-year conventional. But again, that depends on a lot of different factors. But yes, yeah.
But if you're in a situation where you're upside down, if you don't have to move, don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Just live your peaceful little happy life. And if you have a good interest rate, what would you consider to be good? Right? Anything under 7 right now?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if you're going to refinance, well, just talk to somebody and find out what you can get, right? So, because again, it depends. If you've got an amazing credit score, we might be able to refinance you at high 6s. And so I personally like to see at least minimum 0.5%, but I really prefer 0.75% or better, because there's a cost to refinance and it's got to make financial sense to do it. But just ask. It doesn't,
Information is almost always free.
Yes, exactly.
That's the great thing.
Yeah.
And if you have no plans to sell, don't worry about any of this. If you want to be a home buyer, now is the time. Yeah. I wouldn't wait until the bottom of the market, because there's going to be so many other buyers out there, and rates could be higher. And if they're lower, you can likely refinance.
And again, with the seller credits, like right now, we're still in the buyer's market. I think when we dip down, it might change a little bit. And then you can get a better interest rate. And I always like to say, if we can get this, which I'm sorry, because I know you're a big seller's agent, but
I love buyers too. I'm learning to love buyers. I want all the buyers. If you want to buy a house, call me.
Yes.
I want all the buyers now.
Well, I like to tell my clients, like right now, being able to get seller credits, I'm like, this is your free refinance.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm buying your rate down now, and it's not costing you any extra. So
yeah,
now's the time to do it.
I had a homeowner recently tell me that they were flexible on their sales price, and they were okay with the range that I gave them. And they said, but I will not pay anything towards the buyer's concessions. And I'm like, yeah, you are.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about it, really, honestly, if you lower your price $10,000, or you giving seller concessions $10,000, it's 6 to 1, half a dozen of another, as my mom used to say. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's 10% or 10,000 off the profit that you would get as a seller.
And it's funny. It's funny how the math works. That $10,000 here can be worth so much less than $10,000 over here.
Correct.
And so one of my transactions fairly recently, we got an offer in, and the seller was very savvy, very sophisticated, knew his numbers. He could have done that math that we couldn't do very easily. And he was like, I'll do this and I'll do this and this and I want to end up here. And I said, okay, will you give me permission? If I can get you a better deal, if I can craft a better deal, will you give me the rope to do that? And he was like, absolutely. And I said, because it's not going to look like what you just said.
Right. And
so I crafted it very differently. The buyer came out ahead. My seller came out ahead by like $14,500.
Yeah. So
that was just by and I can't get into the details because we're talking about people's money. I'd love to, but we can often recraft. Ideally, you want everyone to not just feel like they're winning, but you want everyone to win. No, you don't want to try to win-wins are great, and it's hard when you've got someone who just wants to stick it to the other side, and that's rare. That is really rare.
Yeah.
But when you have good people on both sides, and you have good agents in the middle, you can craft deals that work out better for everybody, just because we know how this money here is worth more than this money here, and we can get more for the buyer and we can get more for the seller, and no one's losing as much as they anticipated they were going to lose, and then everybody's happy.
Yes.
But it does get complicated, and we spend a lot of time and hours and hours and hours of education to learn how to do this kind of stuff. And I'm not a lender and she's not a realtor, so we just get together and be like, hey, like, let's figure this out.
Nerd out together.
And what's really great is when the buyer's agent and the listing agent and the lender get together and say,
yeah,
how can we orchestrate this deal so that everybody wins?
And that's ideally how it should be.
It is. Yeah. It doesn't happen all the time. I'm doing a deal right now that's pretty great. Yeah. The buyer's agent's pretty awesome, and we've been working really hard to make things really great for my seller and her buyer.
Yeah.
So that's just really fun, and when it happens, and it ruins you for everybody else. Like,
yeah,
I have no tolerance for unkind agents,
because so nice.
There's some really good ones out there.
There are.
You know, it's like we don't have to like be like, we don't have to be like this. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're getting a little philosophical, but it is so true, though. I just always feel like when you live open-handedly, you're in a position to receive, rather than when you're like, this is mine, you know? And I know I went off the deep end, but
no,
like, you know, but it's so true.
That's okay, because
you know?
I think these kinds of numbers that we talk about, and I took the annual commission update class yesterday. You heard me online for 4 hours with Scott Peterson, and he was saying that when the market is down, that people are just, you know, there's more complaints filed and people are just crabby.
Right.
And I get it. I understand it. There's more at stake. There's more of a fear of loss. But if you can just take a deep breath and just relax and let the professionals that you hired to do a job do their job, then you're going to come out better than if you're just fighting. You know,
right.
This is just information. It's just numbers. And there are ways to make these numbers work for the client's benefit.
Yeah.
On the lending side, on the sales side, on the buy side. This is just information.
Right. And when we're informed, we can make really good decisions. Right. So if my goal is to make $100,000 on my house, I'm not going to be selling on this part of the curve. I'm going to stay here until I get
that's
here.
Your only goal.
If that's my only goal.
But what if you have the opportunity to, what if you...
is to live in a different place. I mean, not that Colorado Springs isn't fantastic.
What if you need a billionaire who has a house in Hawaii? And he's got a cliff top house.
Then I'm selling right here and I'm moving to Hawaii with my billionaire. That's what that looks like.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, but so that's what I'm saying. Like, what is your goal, right?
What is your goal?
Because I may lose out on $40,000 here, but then I move to where my dream place is and I'm happy and, you know, we're successful and I end up making $200,000 on that house.
Exactly. It all washes out.
Yeah.
I'm on my 17th house. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
I'm on my 17th house. Scott is a saint. He's a very patient man. I love real estate. Even before I was a real estate professional.
Yeah.
I love real estate. But I've always looked at and I love my houses. I mean, I've loved all of my houses for different reasons. I love the house I love my house now.
It's awesome.
It's pretty great. And it's covered in dog hair.
That's part of the reason why I love it, though. It's very homey.
Very comfortable.
Yes.
For the dogs.
It's very comfortable.
We've turned it over to the dogs, let's be honest. But I would also look at opportunities. And I remember I had this house in Pensacola. And it was the color of strawberry ice cream. And I bought it for like $90,000. And everybody called it the bowling alley or the Taco Bell house because it was Spanish style. It literally had the architecture of like the old Taco Bells.
Yes,
but it was strawberry ice cream pink with white trim. And it was a shotgun, like just went straight to the back. And I loved that house. I freaking loved that house. It had the original light fixtures, you know, and like I'd get shocked if I'd go in there and try to change something out. You know, it's great. But I saw an opportunity to sell that house and make a lot of money. And what I've always done, this is my bounce house theory, is I buy a house, and we are not handy people. Like, I have tools. My husband doesn't even have any tools. Like I am the handyman, and I'm not a handyman, if that tells you anything.
Yeah.
But we make them pretty.
Yeah.
Like, we do stuff in the yard, we put up fences, and we hire people who are professionals to fix things.
Yeah.
And then we fix them up, and we take all of that money, and then we roll it into the next house. So we buy a nicer house, but we've always been able to keep our payments relatively the same over our almost 30-year married life. And that takes an ability to look at the opportunity cost of owning a home. But you can make money just being a homeowner. You don't have to make money in real estate by being a real estate investor or being a landlord. I don't ever want to be a landlord, especially in Colorado.
Right.
That's just misery. Anyway, I digress. But if you look at your home as an opportunity, then if your life is going to change in the next 3 years, and you know that you're going to need to move in the next 3 years, I would say move now. If you have no reason to move, then just don't move.
Right.
But don't, if you bought a house and you feel like it's worth triple what you paid for it in 2021, and you're going to put it on the market to see what happens. No. The market is saturated with overpriced houses right now.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
They're going to be even more overpriced in another 14 months.
And I don't think that 67% of houses are coming off the market because the market is that bad. I think human nature had a lot of people who probably should have sold a couple of years ago. They waited because they thought the market, I don't want to call it greed, because, it's your money and you want to get the most you can. I get it. But they missed their window, and now they want to try to sell it now for what they could have sold it for in 2022.
Right.
And the math is not mathing.
No.
And so we have just a glut of overpriced houses on the market, unrealistic sellers who aren't looking at the market trends and aren't appropriately pricing their homes. And then they come off the market unsold. And so, 30% of the homes, 1 in 3 homes, are still selling. And those are the homes that are priced appropriately.
Yeah. I would agree with you. Not that I know anything about real estate, but I do agree with you. I mean, I know a little bit from hanging out with you.
Thank you all for watching this. We're almost into an hour, so we're going to get off. But
Really?
I know. We're so entertained. We just entertain each other, don't we? We could do this all day, and sometimes we do.
Yeah.
But the video that we put out on Monday, over 4,800 of you watched that video. So thank you for that. I'm curious to see, because I think what we have today, I think the information that we gave you today is so much more detailed and so much better even than what we had on Monday. So I hope this is helpful to you. I hope this isn't a downer, because it's just information. It is what it is. And I hope it helps you make good choices.
Yes.
Appropriate choices. And, housing is a driver of the economy, but man, it's also like right at the core of our hearts too, right? I mean, it's part of our ambition. It's part of our identity, unfortunately, what we do and where we live. And so I want this to be good information and not scary.
No.
It's just information. It's just numbers, folks.
Yeah.
If you need any help, you can reach me at 719-339-7224. Again, I'm Amie Streater with Iconic Colorado Properties. You can find me here on Facebook, or you can email me at Amie, and that's AMIE, French for friend, Amie at iconicColoradoProperties.com. Quickest way to get a hold of me, though, is always to shoot me a text. If I don't respond to your text, you can DM me on Facebook. Sometimes my texts are a little bit wonky right now. And how can people reach you, darling Shari?
You can reach me. Probably the easiest way is on my phone as well. So that's 719-313-6747. And then it's myself, so you can text me. You can comment on this video and tag us. You can email me at Shari, and my name's spelled weird too, SHARI, at elevationslending.com.
Awesome. Well, we
Yeah.
really appreciate everybody who spends time with us on these videos, and we hope our number one goal in this is to bring value. It's not to
Yes.
promote ourselves, it's just to give you information and to bring value, because we know it's a wonky time in the mortgage world and in the real
Yes.
estate world, and then we know there's a lot of confusion, and you guys are being lied to left and right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, just feel free to reach out to either one of us anytime. We're always happy to answer questions. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, thanks so much. Love our Facebook friends. Have a great day.
Awesome. That was fun.